What about the political statement? Because Invictus is all about that was a massive political statement to get the country black and white behind the rugby team and host that event, and it was spectacular. This is the World Cup. This is the biggest sporting event in the world next to the Summer Games.
Yeah.
Everybody's watching. This is even a bigger stage. What about the political statement being made by that country hosting it, and hopefully everything goes well?
Well, hopefully, touch wood, everything does go well. But, I mean, the politics of that country is interesting. The president they have in there now, Jacob Zuma, would not have gotten out of the gate in any Western political forum. I mean, the corruption charges against him, the idiotic comments that have come out of his mouth about HIV, it's just baffling. But what I've noticed over the last 11 years in South Africa, especially the last few years, there's been a brain drain. A lot of doctors, for example, have come to Canada to work. And what I think the World Cup is going to do is going to entice a lot of these people back. You know, Africa got in my heart and soul, and it's in these people's heart and souls as well. And you can only stay away from that place for so long. So what I think that's going to do is bring a lot of this very necessary infrastructure back that's going to help build. I mean, apartheid's still fresh. It's not that long removed from everyday lifestyle. It's still going to take a bit of time, and I think the World Cup is a massive stepping stone in the right direction.
So what do you believe will happen in the next few years in South Africa because of this tournament, that, you know, the impacts will be seen, you know, not just a number of years, but decades later?
Well, foreign investment. I mean, when I got to South Africa, tourism was brand new. People hadn't really traveled there yet, and hopefully this World Cup will obviously bring people there and then make them go home and talk about it, get them excited about it, and bring them back. As far as putting Africa on the map, who knows? It's a volatile place. I mean, this is the African continent. I think if you went back through history, there really hasn't been too much stability in any one place for any amount of time. What I find so interesting with South Africa is there is this jostling of good versus evil, if you want to simplify it. And I really believe that the good is winning. It's taking its steps. It's moving in the right direction, but we'll get there. And this World Cup is just going to help immensely.
Did you make your way to Rhodesia?
I did. I was in Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, way back in 2000, not long after the crisis really began, and it was a desperate place. That's 10 years ago. It's a beautiful place, and it's such a shame because the people there, again, are so friendly, and it's just this mad political leader who's gone off the rails and has caused that country more grief than you can imagine.
Now, the major issues, political and somewhat others aside, I mean, the biggest spotlight on the World Cup when it comes to South Africa has been the vuvuzela, rightly or wrongly. So talk about, I guess, the history behind the itself, and, you know, how important it is to the people of South Africa to be able to blow on those horns in order to show their support for whichever side that they're cheering for.
Well, funnily enough, and I've been to a lot of, we'll call them grassroots football games. That could be when it's low tide on the beach and the kids are down, or in these villages on these pitches that are certainly not level, sticks in the ground as goalposts, running around barefoot. And I have never, ever heard of vuvuzela. Not once. I never heard them at cricket games. I never heard them at rugby games. A vuvuzela it does have tradition in South Africa, but it goes back to when they were warring tribes. The vuvuzela was the horn of a kudu, which is this antelope, and it's got this spirally horn. And they used to blow through that to inspire fear in their enemies. So as far as the vuvuzela at the sporting events, it's certainly some bright entrepreneur got in with the right people, and it's exploded. My South African friends there, they just think it's insane. It's driving them mental like the rest of the world.
Who are the most popular athletes in South Africa? Ernie Els is having a great day at the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach. He's now 1 under for the tournament. He was 3 under today. How popular is golf, and where do they rank, and who is the most popular athlete?
Well, it depends who you talk to. Again, there's this diversity. I've never been to a country where I've seen such a division of wealth. I mean, in Johannesburg, you have Soweto, where people are living in unbelievable poverty, and then you can drive a few kilometers and go past a Lamborghini dealership. Like, it's people living that close with that much division of wealth. Wow. So if you speak to the locals who live in rural South Africa, who are living below the poverty line, football is their passion. Golf, you'll have to kind of focus around Cape Town and the George area and Sun City.
It is a blue blood sport there.
Yep. Yes, very much so. And then I guess as a whole, rugby and cricket really kind of dominate the airways, if you want. It's what the media talks about. And again, and fair play to everybody in South Africa, they really do rally behind their national sports. You know, a guy who will be passionate about football when the Springboks are playing rugby, well, he might pull out his vuvuzela for that as well.
You go to your website, madmaddiesworld.com. You've got some unbelievable photographs.
Thanks.
There as well. Did you do them all? Because they look like they're professionally done. And I would say that if you weren't here as well. It's an unbelievable website with some great pictures, and you really seem to capture everything that you went through, which I find amazing.
Well, thank you very much. You know what? It was a basic point-and-shoot Olympus camera, as idiotic as it got. Some of these places just, you know, they're so beautiful that you just can almost close your eyes and point the camera and something will come out. I have to admit, I developed a bit of a passion for photography, and once digital cameras came along, I went through the roof. I mean, a lot of those photos were taken back in the days of film, where you really did have to be selective. Now I'll go out and snap a couple hundred shots of a silly waterfall from 20 different angles.
We're all guilty of never printing them anymore.
Yeah, no, and you know what? And I miss that. I really do miss having the photographs to have in your hand. But thank you for the compliment.
I have to ask you too, and you know, you mentioned at the beginning you bought a one-way ticket to Glasgow because you were sick of the rat race. I mean, that's, I think, a dream of so many of us to be able to do that and to travel the world like you have. But what did it take for you, the difference between talking about it and actually doing it? That takes a lot of guts for somebody to do that.
You know, I was so unhappy. I could not get through a single day without losing the plot on something. It could be a coworker, it could be a neighbor, it could be somebody I was passing on the highway. I just was so frustrated, and I saw life pass me by, and I just woke up one day and said, you got two choices. Either do this for the next 40 years and be miserable, or make a change. Go find yourself. And really, that was the hardest part, making that conscious decision to give everything up, give up these comforts. Once I did that, the rest fell in place.
All right, so 11 years ago, you started this journey. As we're out of time, great having you in studio, Matty. Rhyme off where you've been, and then tell us total how much time was spent in South Africa as you pieced it all together.
Well, in total, South Africa is about 6.5 years.
Okay.
And that's spread out.
So you got 5.5 unaccounted for here.
For sure. And I crisscrossed Europe initially. I lived in the Canary Islands for a while, worked for quite a notorious British gangster. Spent some time in the Middle East, worked on a boat in Israel, spent some time with a Bedouin tribe in the Sinai Peninsula. Jumped over to Australia for a little bit, cruised around there in a van till it caught on fire and burnt to the ground.
Oh, you can't do that anymore after
Is
it
this
burns
all
to
in the
the
book?
ground. Yeah.
This is actually, the book's the first 2 years. I'm working on book 2 now.
All right.
Southeast Asia, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia. Magical part of the world.
Have you been to prison?
Not yet.
Okay, good.
Not yet. Touch wood.
Great having you in studio.
Thanks very much for having me,
Thanks,
guys.
Matty.
Through Travel and Error, Confessions of an Asylum-Seeking Canadian by Matt Hamilton. Where can they pick this book up?
Has it. It's available online. And just Google my name and the title, and you'll have a smorgasbord of options.
All right, thanks, Matty.
Thanks, Lloyd.